Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Is XRP a vehicle to early retirements, or is it just a risky gamble? Here's an article from Magazine by Cointelegraph, which, no offense, Cointelegraph is kind of a stupid name. What's the publication? Magazine? Yeah, but what is it? No, it's magazine. Oh, okay, gotcha. What's your dog's name? Dog? Like... Okay, guys. So anyway, it's Magazine by Cointelegraph, but I actually did like this article. It was titled "Retire Early with Crypto?" ? Playing with fire. And there's a lot of interesting stuff that's discussed in here, and it's very clear to me that there are a lot of people out there that think that we that invest in cryptocurrency have basically lost our sanity, that we're just a bunch of degenerate gamblers. That this is nothing more than either a Ponzi scheme and or just the greater fool theory and in practice. And I want to share with you specifically how I feel on this, both about XRP as well as crypto in general. And it just seems to me that a lot of people that feel the way they do, they haven't necessarily tremendously educated themselves on crypto and what it actually is. And so from the outside looking in, listening to scary headlines, but not really acquiring facts for yourself, I can understand how people would feel the way they'd feel. And it is good to be suspicious, certainly. But are you really going to have firm opinions that are negative if you haven't really seriously looked into it? That's not the way that I approach life anyway. So I do want to be clear at the outset. I don't have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos as a hobby, just because I think it's fun talking about this stuff, but I am just your everyday Joe Schmo out there, not pretending to be some sort of fake guru. I'll tell you what, there are enough financial fake gurus out on the internet. I'm not going to add to the pile, so I am just a regular dude that enjoys talking about this stuff here. And so what I did is I printed up this mofo. It's like 16 pages, something like that. And then I highlighted the parts that I found most interesting so that I could kind of run through it and share with you my thoughts here. So anyway, again, this is titled "Retire Early with Crypto?" ? Which is why the inflection on my voice goes up like this. Playing with fire. Finance blogger The FI Explorer, which presumably stands for Financially Independent Explorer, or Financial Independence Explorer, anyway. This guy didn't invest in cryptocurrency in order to retire early, but unlike many of the newly minted crypto rich, he did set out to retire early. And so the FI Explorer, also known as Jason, is part of the FIRE community, Financial Independence Retire Early, where adherents save up to 80% of their income throughout their 20s and 30s in order to either retire early or simply follow their passions. And so let me pause right there and just say, I always admire people that live beneath their means. And because I do that myself, and I think you should no matter how much money you make. And so it's not about not liking nice things. That's not what I'm talking about, but everybody's wired a little bit differently, but just by nature. And not that there can't be learned behaviors, and people can change to a certain degree over time, but I'm wired in such a way that I value financial stability rather than stuff. And so I get more out of having a huge pile of cash than I do having stuff. That's just the way that I'm wired. Some people are wired in a different way, and if you're like this, it's okay. We're all wired a little bit differently. You just need to be aware of it. But some people are wired in such a way that they actually feel good when they're spending money and buying stuff. For me, buying stuff in general is more of a stressful event. I don't enjoy the process of actually buying stuff, which doesn't mean I don't like the stuff, but there's actual more like emotional pain in spending money. That's just the way that I happen to be wired. And now, as far as acquiring wealth, I think that's actually advantageous for me because I'm not going to be all willy-nilly about how I'm treating my funds. And so, just all that to say, anybody that is saving, I respect that rather than just blowing all their money, planning for the future, very reputable. And so these people are doing it in a much more extreme way than the typical person would. But if you're talking about saving 80% of your income and living drastically beneath your means so that you no longer have to have fear about money in the future, I personally, I've always thought that this is respectable here. And so then it continues. For most of his 20-year journey towards his FIRE target of 1.64 million United States dollars, which was chosen to produce $65,000 in annual income for the rest of his life, Jason directed his savings toward sensible investments, like exchange-traded funds, shares, and gold. But after listening to a Bitcoin-focused podcast in 2015, he decided to chance it and put around $3,000, or 0.5% of his portfolio at the time, into the cryptocurrency. And so Bitcoin's astonishing growth since has seen the allocation expand to account for almost a third of his portfolio at its peak, and helped him sail past his FIRE target in December 2020 much earlier than expected. And so, you know, and here's the way that I always looked at this too. When I jumped into crypto, well, technically when I first jumped into crypto, I had done zero research. And it was something that was kind of on a whim. Admittedly, I did jump into crypto, but I bought Litecoin and Ethereum and Bitcoin all on the same day. Those were the only 3 coins available on Coinbase at the time, November of 2017. But I barely put anything in, and so you could say, "Well, that's risky gambling. You didn't know what the hell you were doing." And I was like, "Okay, fine," but I barely put anything in, and I did it to learn, specifically to learn. And it's like, to me, part of it is just like actually jumping in. An experience, like what's it like to be on a cryptocurrency exchange, and just get familiar with it, get comfortable with it while you're doing the rest of your research. So that, like, for me, that's what I did anyway. But I also, I've never counted specifically on investing in crypto purely to retire. The way that I always looked at when I started buying XRP, because I dollar cost averaged into XRP for a number of years. It's not that I didn't think it could result in so much wealth that it couldn't on its own result in retirement. I'm not saying that I didn't believe that. What I'm saying is I was never counting on it. I was never going to put so much money into crypto, even though I did believe the whole time it would substantially outperform the stock market or any other asset class. Even though I believed that, I was never going to do anything to disrupt my other plans, because that would make me feel very uncomfortable. I would have trouble sleeping at night. I wasn't willing to take on that risk, and I'm still not. And so what I did instead was I put in what I was willing to risk losing in case I was wrong about all of this, and then it's now at a point where even with the most recent pullback, you know, the percentage of my my net worth that's in crypto is rather substantial. Even with the pullback we've had over the last 6 weeks, since I haven't sold anything, because I'm just a guy that I don't try and time markets. I know there's tremendous volatility. That stuff doesn't bother me, so I don't care that we're way down compared to 6 weeks ago. I've been through worse actually in crypto in the last 3.5 years. Even so, because I dollar cost averaged in and bought a couple dozen different cryptocurrencies over the last 3.5 years or so, it's worth substantially more, and that was part of my plan. But it certainly, and then I just want to kind of let it ride. So I'm okay with it being a bigger percentage, since it was my plan that, okay, if this is right, if it explodes, then yes, I'll let it ride. But I was never going to feel comfortable putting, you know, crazy quantities of the cash that I had that was disposable into crypto. It needed to go into places where I would still feel safe. So that's the way that I approach it. So I can certainly understand how people would feel the way that they feel about crypto, especially if you're just starting out here. But anyway, he said, "That's incredible." He said that to Magazine, which is a stupid name anyway. But he said, here's a quote, "Previously, I had a goal that was laboriously calculated with lots of curves and linear extrapolations, but late this year, I kind of hit it accidentally." Now, that's kind of cool. He purchased crypto, purchased Bitcoin. I don't know if he had other coins, but he accidentally hit retirement early. And so this happens for a ton of people, and I knew that this was certainly a strong possibility, and it happens for the people that have a sufficient understanding of crypto and can manage their emotions, because it's so volatile that there's so many people just get completely wrecked and shaken out of the market. And so, like, really one of the biggest risks, I think, to anybody investing in crypto, it's themselves. I really firmly feel that it's like you are your greatest impediment, because the data shows us that just like the stock market's been going up in value for over 100 years, despite major pullbacks along the way, crypto has been going up for over 12 years, despite major pullbacks along the way. And I don't see either of those changing soon. And this isn't to say that there's not risk in crypto. In fact, I would argue that there's more risk in crypto as opposed to the stock market. But that doesn't mean that there's not tremendous opportunity for those that inform themselves and have proper risk management and so on and so forth. I still think there's a tremendous opportunity, and I still believe even from this exact moment forward, if you just ask what's going to be the best performing asset class over the next decade, my guess would be the crypto asset class, and I think that there isn't even going to be a close second, frankly. And so then it writes here, although crypto has provided some in the FIRE community with a shortcut to reach their goals, it remains controversial, seen by some as an illegitimate, risky path to financial freedom when compared with scrimping and saving to invest in index funds. And I still respect the people that won't touch crypto and they still want to get an index fund. I absolutely respect it. Everyone's got to do what's right for themselves. For me, what's right was sticking with my general plan, not counting on crypto for retirement. But my attitude was like, if it goes way up as I suspect it will, then hey, awesome. That's basically how I looked at it. And so Jason, who was just citing there in the article, he understands why FIRE followers are wary. The common take is highly skeptical, he says. I think that's probably healthy in a way. The FIRE community has largely been around low-cost, predictable, but well-diversified portfolios, and really has emphasized that issue of dollar-cost averaging and saving over a long period and compounding returns. So I think cryptocurrency is the antithesis of that. It presents at first blush like the kind of get-rich scam that people are forever warning other people about. And so I can understand why people, when you hear about these crazy returns, it's only natural to think, okay, what's the scam? The jig is up here. And really, the ultimate answer is there's a frenzy around this technology, and the markets are so illiquid that it doesn't take much money coming in or out for it to be volatile. I mean, that's the real answer. Those are the biggest drivers, in my opinion. So it's not that it is actually a scam. I mean, yeah, there are outlier scams like the BitConnect coin. I'm not pretending that there aren't. There are scams in real life and other asset classes as well. But yeah, it makes sense to be skeptical. This is something brand new. I got it. The asset class has only been around for a little over a decade. That's how I approached it too. I approached all this with extreme skepticism, but that's why I was so excited when I found XRP2, because that's when I had my aha moment. I was like, wait a minute, whoa. So you're telling me there are business models that can only exist with a technologically sufficient decentralized cryptocurrency that has an open market price? And then when I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, crypto is never going away. And so that's why I recognize even today that I could be wrong about all of the horses that I'm betting on, because I own a couple dozen cryptocurrencies. Even if I'm wrong about all of them, XRP and Bitcoin and the rest, I'm actually even more certain that the crypto asset class will be here, even if I picked all of the wrong ones. Even if. Because there's value to be had, or if something's valuable and it's based on the availability of decentralized asset with an open market price, it's just not going away. And so getting into some of the critiques here, though, this is where people they really need to do some additional research here. And if they still don't want to get in crypto, that's fine. Like, you got to decide what your own risk tolerance is and what your big picture goals. I understand all that's perfectly fine. But there's a different individual here whose name here is Mr. Money Mustache. What a fun name here. Mr. Money Mustache is dead against cryptocurrency. In March, he wrote a piece about how crypto was just a bubble and how, quote, this whole situation is just the age-old game of stock speculation based on price momentum, which is in turn just another form of gambling, end quote. And so here we have another individual, and I gotta harp on this when I see this. It's another individual that says, oh, crypto is just a bubble. And you know what they're insinuating when they say that? It's just a bubble, meaning there's nothing actually to it, and it should all be worth zero. And perhaps he believes it's actually all going to zero. But it's not, which is why I was stating just a moment ago, even if I'm wrong about XRP, and I don't think I am, but if I am, fine, crypto's still here, unless you think the internet's going to stop existing, but I don't think that's going to happen either here. You know, this idea of it's just gambling, in order for it to just be gambling, there would have to be no actual value to any of it. And understand here, we need to differentiate between value and price. Value, if you're talking about value, it's just like what problem is actually being solved with a particular cryptocurrency. Like, where's the value coming? Why would anyone actually want it? Can the problem be solved with something that isn't a decentralized cryptocurrency with an open market price? And in some answers, in some situations, you actually could just use a database and you don't need a crypto for some proposed, quote unquote, solutions out there that crypto is going after. But there are all sorts of cryptocurrencies, solutions that do require them. They actually do require them. And so that's where the value comes in. But that's not price. Price is the open market price that someone's willing to pay for a particular cryptocurrency on open exchanges, like cryptocurrency exchanges. Value and price are two very different things here. And so if you're saying that something is purely gambling, you would have to believe that there's no value to any of this, and that is just blatantly false. That is not true, and so that's why I would say this individual simply needs to do more research, because that's why if you just look at Ripple, because here's the thing too, if there is one use case, just one on the entire planet, then that legitimizes the entire asset class. If there's just one use case, because that represents value, and if something is valuable, people aren't just going to kick it to the curb. Because in the case of XRP, it's an asset that facilitates transactions of global cross-border payments, and humans haven't devised another solution that would work to solve this train wreck of global cross-border payments and settlement. There isn't a solution outside of using a jurisdictionless bridge currency like XRP. That's it. And so you have to, society has to pick which cryptocurrency it would be to be used as a bridge, and is there going to be liquidity? Then you have to build out corridors. But there are winners and losers, just like there have been a number of different social media platforms. But there's going to be, there's dominant ones, like for instance, Facebook. You remember that MySpace thing? How'd that work out? Yeah, it didn't end up going very well ultimately. And so there will be competition. It's not to say that there can't be different cryptocurrencies that can strive for the same goal. But then you're just talking about, to what degree are they going to get their share of the market, right? But that represents true value here. And so there was another writer, he held in high esteem, as they write here, by the Australian FIRE community. He is the barefoot investor, Scott Pape, who also regularly warns against cryptocurrency. And actually, let me pause here too before I forget this, because both of them are saying similar things here. But they're talking about how the speculation is just based on price momentum. That's true in the stock market. What they're investing in, I don't know if they even realize this. It's about price momentum. And yes, holding for a long period of time, that helps. People that are short-term don't typically do well. But it is about price momentum. And so you could say, yes, there are fundamentals to the stock market, sure. And fundamentals matter a bit more in stock market than they do in crypto, but that's just because the crypto asset class is in its nascency right now. It won't be forever, but to state that fundamentals don't matter at all in crypto certainly is not true. But still, even in the stock market, I firmly believe, having been in the space now for over 3.5 years, even when it comes to stocks, it's still more so about human psychology and price momentum than it is about the fundamentals, even in stocks. Do you really think that every stock investor out there is so sophisticated that they're just spending endless hours researching every stock that they're putting their money into? No, they're not. Of course they're not. Things start pumping up, and then money chases it. This happens in every asset class. Bubbles form in every single asset class. Bubbles are not a dirty word, or at least they shouldn't be. Bubbles form in precious metals, including gold. They form in real estate, the stock market, yes, even cryptocurrency. And to insinuate that because a bubble forms that it's worth nothing or it's all going to zero is wrong. It's wrong, purely. And so this guy, Scott Pape here, respected in the FIRE community, right here, who also regularly warns against cryptocurrency. In a recent column, he argued that crypto relies entirely on the greater fool theory, and that you only win when some greater fool buys in at a higher price. And so there you go. It's the same thing. It's purely price driven. This is the greater fool theory, which is just this idea that there's nothing to it. But I'm investing because I think that there's going to be an idiot bigger than myself that'll pay even more for this stuff that's worthless. That's what they're saying by greater fool theory. But that's nonsense, because that throws out the idea that there's actually value to any of this. But there is value to this. It's just, and if you think about it, if you're gonna state that somebody paying more for something than you paid when you sell it makes it part of a greater fool theory, well, then that's true of anything you're going to invest in. I mean, think about it. If you buy a stock, is it your plan to sell it for more or less than you paid for it. You're hoping there's a greater fool out there to pay more for the stock, aren't you? I mean, I wouldn't word it like that, but that's what they're saying effectively. That's what they're saying about crypto. So you hope that there's a bigger fool than you that's going to pay more for the stock after it runs up. Based on price momentum. Is that correct? Same for gold, or pick your asset, right? Or if you buy a house and you sell it one day, correct? You want a greater fool out there, right? Well, okay, you know, your argument of there being a greater fool maybe makes sense if this is nothing but a scam and it's going to zero because there's no actual value to it and these assets can't do anything that you could do without them. That would make sense. But if you believe that, then you need to do some damn homework here, son, because that don't make no damn sense to Moon Lambo here. It really doesn't. And so he wrote here, here's a quote from him. If you're persuaded to sell your boring index funds and lay down with dogs, I can almost guarantee you'll eventually end up with financial fleas. He added. So clever. Financial fleas. Okay, well, watch the world pass you by. If you don't want to participate in crypto, like I said at the outset, it's perfectly fine. You got to do what's within your comfort zone. But you will continue to see, I firmly believe, even from this very moment, fast forward a decade, that crypto is going to dramatically outpace anything else that you are investing in. And you can just sit from the sidelines and not participate in the greatest wealth transfer in the history of mankind. You can do that. That's fine. That's not what I'm going to do, though. And then they write here about getting rich quickly. There have, of course, been countless crypto-based get-rich-quick scams, from BitConnect-style Ponzi schemes to rug-pull scams on Uniswap, leaving aside the sheer recklessness of inexperienced investors tipping money into meme coins based on the fact that they feature the same breed of dog as Dogecoin. But what separates crypto from most get-rich-quick scams, however, is that people genuinely do get rich, and quick. So rich, in fact, that many find themselves in a position to retire early, even without working toward the goal. And that's actually true. Like, you see that the stories like that all over the place. And there are negative stories too, of course, here. But it's just astonishing me, the opportunity that is to be had. And we know how humans behave. Like, don't get me wrong, I still think most cryptocurrencies are going to zero, but this is just the messiness of the market figuring out which cryptocurrencies deserve to have staying power. And you can compare this human behavior to what happened during the dot-com boom and bust, when, thanks to the internet coming to prominence, or beginning to, you had the stock market bubble inflate to something like $6 trillion before popping. And most of those companies, the dot-com companies, because they threw a .com on their company name, and it's just a huge money grab, frankly, kind of like you saw with ICOs in 2017. But, you know, anything that was a .com around the 2000s would just get a crazy amount of money, just like with initial coin offerings in 2017. And they were largely bad ideas and or scams. And they were. And so we've already seen humans behave like this before. And so then after the huge bubble inflated, it popped. It didn't mean that the internet wasn't valuable. No. Like, what has happened over the last decade? How much money, how much wealth has been created thanks to, like, the FANG stocks? You know, you're talking about, you know, there's Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, Google. Like, look at what's happened over the last decade. Was there nothing to the internet just because most of the companies that got money actually went away and went to zero? Well, no, that's not true. Most of those companies did go away. Well, most of these coins are going to go away. So, this is how humans behave. We've already seen this movie, right? We know how humans behave. I'm just saying. I'm happy to be participating here. And I've also only put in what I'm willing to lose in case this doesn't go the way that I think and hope that it will, because just because I feel confident about all of this, it doesn't mean that I'm willing to take on extreme risk exposure. I'm not. You know, I put in what I was willing to lose in case I was wrong. And then that's always going to be how I handle this anyway. But there is something to be aware of, because some people, they do hold on a little bit too long when they have life-changing wealth. And so check this out. Evidence suggests that while plenty of crypto holders do end up with paper profits that would enable them to retire, few end up realizing those gains. Most hold on expecting it to go higher, or because they become so addicted to the game that they don't want to leave the table. It's one of the biggest dilemmas with cryptocurrency. Cashing out means losing out on massive potential upside, but not selling means risking life-changing wealth. Right, and so I'm aware of a number of stories along these lines, and so here's a tweet from Slum Doge Millionaire of Dogecoin holder, June 21st of this year, who wrote, "Down almost $200,000 in one single day with Dogecoin. Guess who's still not selling?" And you can see His balance was down $186,000, but it was still worth $812,000 on that day. And actually, since then, my understanding is it's actually a little bit up, but that's not the reason that I'm highlighting this. At some point, you know, the music's going to stop and the bubble's going to pop, and then you enter a bear market before it inflates again. So I don't think it means we're going to zero personally, although some coins could at some point if the market matures. Well, the market will mature, just a question of when. And so Lark Davis, a popular guy in the world of crypto, he wrote, "This happened to so many in 2017. Millionaires on paper and never hit the sell button to take out profits, and thus they watch their millions become thousands." And so that's why for me, I am going to sell it. I'm not worried about hitting the top. If the price for my XRP and my other cryptos is enticing enough, I'm just going to sell all of it, you know, or at least the vast majority, but ideally sell all of it if the price does get high enough anyway. And then if it keeps running, and it will for some time, I think, but if it keeps running up way past where I sold, I'm not going to beat myself up over that. Because if I sold, that means it's a spot where I was happy with, and I adjusted my risk tolerance. And anybody that wants to come after me, once I share where I sold, if it runs way higher, then I'm just going to think you're a jerk, because you're not taking into account like the differences between my goals, my financial goals, and what your risk tolerance is and my risk tolerance is. Like, it's different for everyone. You got to decide for yourself, which is why I'm never going to tell you to buy or sell or hold. You got to make that decision for yourself. But for me, I do believe that when I sell, it's going to be a very attractive payday for me, or else I'm not going to sell. And it's probably going to run up way, way, way higher, and I'm not going to have regret about it. I'm just not going to do that. There's too many people that have just lost everything. And so, like, and again, it doesn't mean that there won't be opportunity in the future. Like, think about these coins that went down even over 90%. Well, even if over the last X number of market cycles, even if you were so unfortunate to buy Bitcoin at its peak, let time pass and it keeps going higher. And so in that sense, good, but there will come a day of reckoning. I don't know when it's going to happen or how quickly it's going to occur, but eventually there's going to be a flushing out of all these cryptocurrencies that don't do anything, and I don't know when that's going to come, which is why I feel better investing in cryptocurrencies that do something. But I have put bits into other cryptocurrencies that aren't for this market cycle specifically with the intent to sell on the way up. And in that sense, that I would say those investments, I would say it's probably more fair to argue that those are part of the greater fool theory. But even then, I have data that shows me that that the market moves in tandem, and so I'm not as fearful about that, and I've only put in what I'm willing to lose. But in terms of the other coins like XRP where there's actual utility, no. That's not part of the greater fool theory unless you say the stock market is too. If you say that is, then okay, everything's the greater fool theory. Outside of that, no, it don't make no damn sense to Moon Lambo. I'm just saying. So, no, I don't think this is gambling, but it's certainly not for everybody. Getting in crypto, getting into XRP, I understand that. But to me, there's just such tremendous opportunity here. And for so many, it does result in retirement early. And I'll tell you what, I am not going to be one of the people, though, that gets caught holding onto XRP or anything else for way too long. At least my goal is not to. I'm not going to have as much trouble selling as a lot of people will, I think, anyway. But we'll see how it goes. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Lambo.